Your Excellency, over the next 2 days, the delegates here will be having broad conversations about the challenges that face the capital markets and the galvanization of capital in the continent of Africa. Among the conversations, Your Excellency, will be the climate change conversation, and this is very timely, coming only 2 weeks before the COP conference, where Kenya will be leading the African statement from the private sector. Your Excellency, we will be having those conversations. How we can help governments mobilize funds, how we can help the private sector mobilize funds, and indeed, how we can alleviate poverty from our people. Our continent contains many resources that make us unique and singular in the global equation. By the year 2050, the population of our continent will be larger than that of India and China combined. The GDP of this continent, the untapped resources. And I think if we cannot find African solutions to African problems, then for sure we are headed in the wrong direction. So, Your Excellency, we are so honored that you could be here today to give us guidance insofar as how these conversations should be formed, to give us your thoughts in terms of what we should be doing.
I will also take this opportunity to really thank all of you who have taken that time from all exchanges across the African region. There are 26 exchanges, $2 trillion, more than 2,000 listed entities, and therefore these are astronomical numbers that really appreciate the work that the King and people have done to host us at the last minute. The African Stock Exchanges Association have got many successes, which I will not mention here for the sake of time. But let me take this opportunity to really appreciate your presence, Your Excellency, President Ruto, Chairman, all the distinguished guests here, all the King and people, Karibu Nairobi.
This is an important occasion for the capital markets, particularly stock exchanges across African continent, to take stock of recent developments, including performance, opportunities, emerging issues, and even challenges that require concerted efforts to address. This year's conference theme is Unlocking Africa's Stock Exchange Potential for Sustained Economic Development, but it is also indeed important from frontier markets in Africa that are facing very serious challenges and how we need to tame them. The sustained prosperity of a nation is closely linked to the creation of an enduring, competitive, and even stable financial system that provide an opportunity to mobilize financial resources and deploy them in productive investment and even sectors. The role of government is to create a conducive environment to increase the opportunities for borrowers, savers, investors, and be part of the development discourse, and also make sure that they can appropriate returns from their own investment. Because as soon as the investors cannot appropriate returns from their own investment, that is, they are consumed by cost structures, then they stop investing. A majority of African stock exchanges face structural hurdles to growth, and they are struggling with liquidity and also considerable minimal participation by retail investors. We have to rethink structure given the digital age, and we need to think about that in terms of how we are going to contain the process. The initial public offering IPO landscape in Africa further confirms that the challenges that our stock markets face are quite immense. The pipeline of IPOs and even further offerings in Africa has decreased significantly. It is against this background that we need to deliberate on how to solve the legacy and emerging challenges facing stock markets in the continent, and even explore opportunities to re-establish the competitive edge of public capital markets as an avenue of raising capital in Africa. I'm grateful to the African Securities Exchanges Association, ASEA, ladies and gentlemen, because they champion the digital transformation that we are all looking forward to. And this is going to improve market condition and even accessibility and transparency. In this ever-evolving world of finance, even where we have challenges entering the international financial markets, we do believe that our markets are the lifeblood of our economic and even our own role in terms of shaping the future. And that responsibility is profound. It is important for us to rethink strategy, to rethink the innovative ways of getting there. The African capital markets are, as a collective entity, important in terms of playing a vital.
Stock exchanges play a significant role in mobilizing domestic resources and international capital critical for Africa's economic renaissance. If well harnessed, stock exchanges can be the engine that transforms Africa into a global economic powerhouse and the financial center of the world. And I mean it. It is a reality. Over the last few years, African stock exchanges have seen considerable growth bolstered by reforms undertaken by various countries in different ways. These reforms, such as interest rates liberalization, removal of debt ceilings, enhancement of regulatory environment, as well as restructuring and privatization of state-owned enterprises, acted as a catalyst that saw growth in our markets over the last decade. These reforms notwithstanding, the changing macroeconomic dynamics have affected African stock exchanges, heavily weighing on their growth and impact. As we speak, Africa exchanges remain modest, and their contribution to economic development continues to be marginal. A majority of African stock exchanges face structural hurdles to growth, struggling with liquidity and considerable minimal participation by retail investors. The IPO landscape in Africa further confirms the challenges that our stock exchanges face. The pipeline for IPOs and further lead offerings in Africa has decreased significantly. With over 40 exchanges in the continent, we should be able to have at least 5 listings per day across the continent. And you know that's not the case. It is against this background that you meet to deliberate on how to solve legacy and emerging challenges facing stock exchanges and stock markets in the continent and explore opportunities to re-establish the competitive edge of public resource markets as an avenue for raising capital in Africa. We all understand that the global economy has changed. Markets have become very uncertain, and we therefore must work on enhancing the efficiency of the capital markets to make it much more resilient to market dynamics. On our part as government, we have taken various steps to revitalize the capital markets. 2 months ago, I did assent to the privatization bill, heralding a paradigm shift in the process of executing privatization of public enterprises by infusing international best practices and, more important,